Hello and welcome back. Today is Monday, November 25th, 2024, and we are reading chapter 19 of Lirael by Garth Nix. I'm going to get right into it today. I'm still having trouble with my computer. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if it's my computer, my internet, Mercury retrograde. I have no idea, but even last night I had trouble getting getting chapter 18 uploaded onto YouTube. So I'm doing this really early today so that if there is any trouble, it can have hours to get done. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you've heard about Mercury retrograde or have any idea about it. Essentially, it's just Mercury appearing to move backwards in the heavens. But a lot of people say that it can affect electronics activity and make people agitated and annoyed, like they talk about during the full moon. More people get in car accidents and there's more road rage and arguments and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's what's going on or if I don't know, but we're gonna get this figured out because I want to get these posted on time. So let's get started. Chapter 19. Ellimere's thoughts on the education of princes. After 2 weeks of hard riding, bad weather, indifferent food, and sore muscles that were slow to readapt to horseback, Sam arrived in the great city of Belisare to find that his mother was not there. Sabriel had already been and gone, called away again to deal with a reported free magic sorcerer come bandit chief who was attacking travelers along the northern extremes of the Nailway. Within a day, Touchstone was gone too, riding to sit at a high court in Estwale, where an ancient, simmering feud between two noble families had broken out into murders and kidnappings. In Touchstone's absence, Sam's 14-month-older sister Ellimere was named co-regent, along with Jal Oren, the chancellor. It was a formality, really, since Touchstone would rarely be more than a few days away by message hawk, but a formality that would greatly affect Sam. Ellimere took her responsibility seriously. She thought that one of her duties as co-regent was to address the shortcomings of her younger brother. Touchstone had been gone only an hour when Ellimere came looking for Sam. Since Touchstone had left at dawn, Sam was still asleep. He had recovered from his physical wounds, but he still did not feel quite himself. He grew tired more easily than before, and wanted to be alone more. 14 days of rising before dawn and riding till after dusk, accompanied by the hearty humor of the guards, had not helped him feel less tired or more gregarious. Consequently, he was not amused when Ellimere chose to wake him up on his first morning in his own bed by ripping back the curtains, flinging his window open, and ripping the blankets off. It was already several days into winter in the Old Kingdom, and decidedly cool. The sea breeze that came roaring in could even be accurately described as cold, and all the feeble sunshine did was hurt Sam's eyes. "Wake up, wake up, wake up!" caroled Ellimere, who had a surprisingly deep singing voice for a woman. "Go away!" growled Sam, as he attempted to snatch the blankets back. A brief tug of war ensued, which Sam gave up when one of the blankets got ripped in half. "Now look what you've done," Sam said bitterly. Ellimere shrugged. She was supposed to be pretty. Some even considered her beautiful, but Sam couldn't see it. As far as he was concerned, Ellimere was a dangerous pest. By making her co-regent, his parents had elevated her to the status of a monster. "I've come to discuss your schedule," said Ellimere. She sat down on the end of the bed, her back very straight, and her hands clasped regally in her lap. Sam noted that she wore a fine, bell-sleeved tabard of red and spun gold over her everyday linen dress, and a sort of demi-regal circlet kept her long and immaculately brushed black hair in place. Since her normal attire was old hunting leathers, with her hair carelessly tied back out of the way, her dress did not bode well for Sam's own desire for informality. "My what?" Sam asked. "Your schedule," continued Ellimere. "I'm sure that you were planning to spend most of your time tinkering in that smelly workshop of yours, but I'm afraid your duty to the kingdom comes first." "What?" asked Sam. He felt very tired, and certainly not up to this conversation, particularly since he was indeed planning to spend most of his time in his tower workroom. For the last few days, as they'd got closer and closer to Belisare, he'd been looking forward to the solitude and peace of sitting at his workbench, with all his tools carefully arranged on the wall, above the chest of tiny drawers, each filled with some useful material, like silver wire or moonstones. He had managed to survive the last part of the trip by dreaming up new toys and gadgets he would make in his little haven of calm and recuperation. "The kingdom must come first," reiterated Ellimere. "The people's morale is very important, and each member of the family must play a part in maintaining it. As the only prince we've got, you'll have to—" "No!" exclaimed Sam, who suddenly realized where she was heading. He jumped out of bed, his nightshirt billowing around his legs, and scowled down at his sister, until she stood up and looked down her nose at him. She not only was slightly taller than he was, but also had the advantage of wearing shoes. "Yes," said Ellimere sternly. "The Midsummer Festival. You'll need to play the part of the Bird of Dawning. Rehearsals start tomorrow." "But it's 5 months away," protested Sam. "Besides, I don't want to be the blasted Bird of Dawning. That suit must weigh a ton, and I'd have to wear it for a week. Didn't Dad tell you I'm sick?" "He said you needed to be busy," said Ellimere. "And since you've never danced the bird, you'll need 5 months' practice. Besides, there's the appearance at the end of the Midwinter Festival, too, and that's only 6 weeks away." "I haven't got the legs for it," muttered Samuel, thinking of the cross-gartered yellow stockings worn under the gold-feathered plumage of the Bird of Dawning. "Get someone with tree-trunk legs." "Samuel, you're going to dance the bird, like it or not," declared Ellimere. "It's about time you did something useful around here. I've also scheduled you to sit with Jol at the Petticourt every morning between 10 and 1, and you'll have sword practice twice a day with the guard, of course, and you must come to dinner. No ordering meals to your grubby workshop. And for perspective, I've assigned you to work with the scullions every second Wednesday." Sam groaned and sank back on the bed. Perspective was Sabriel's idea. For one day every 2 weeks, Ellimere and Sam would work somewhere in the palace, supposedly like the ordinary people there. Of course, even when they were washing dishes or mopping floors, the servants could rarely forget that Sam and Ellimere would be prince and princess again tomorrow. Most of the servants dealt with the situation by pretending Sam and Ellimere weren't there, with a few notable exceptions, like Mistress Finney, the falconer, who shouted at them like everyone else. So perspective was usually a day of drudgery, performed in strange silence and isolation. "What are you doing for perspective?" Sam asked, suspicious that Ellimere would skip it now that she was co-regent. "Stables." Sam grunted. The stables were hard work, particularly since it would probably be a day of mucking out. But Ellimere loved horses and all the work around them, so she probably didn't mind. "Mother also said you were to study this." Ellimere drew a package out of her voluminous sleeve. It wasn't immediately recognizable, being wrapped in oilskin and tied with thick, hairy twine. Sam reached for the package, but as his fingers touched the wrapping, he felt a terrible chill and the sudden presence of death, despite the spells and charms that were supposed to prevent any traffic with that cold realm, woven into the very stone around them. Sam snatched his hand back and retreated to the other end of the bed, his heart suddenly thumping wildly, sweat beading his face and hands. He knew what was inside that seemingly innocuous package. It was the Book of the Dead, a small volume bound in green leather with tarnished silver clasps, leather and silver laden with protective magic, marks to bind and blind, to close and imprison. Only someone with an innate talent for free magic and necromancy could open the book, and only an uncorrupted charter mage could close it. It contained all the lore of necromancy and counter-necromancy that 53 abhorrents had gathered over 1,000 years, and more besides, for its contents never stayed the same, seemingly altering at the book's own whim. Sam had read a little of it, at his mother's side. "What's wrong with you?" asked Ellimere curiously, as Sam went paler and paler, and his teeth began to chatter. She put the package on the end of his bed and came over, touching the back of her hand to Sam's forehead. "You're cold," she said, surprised. "Really cold." "Sick," muttered Sam. He could barely speak. Fear gripped his throat. Fear of somehow being thrown into death by the book, of being plunged once again under the surface of the cold river, to go crashing through the first gate. "Get back into bed," ordered Ellimere, suddenly solicitous. "I'll get Dr. Shimbliss." "No!" cried Sam, thinking of the court doctor and his curious, inquiring ways. "It'll pass. Just leave me alone for a while." "All right," replied Ellimere, as she closed the window and helped rearrange what was left of the blankets. "But don't think this is going to get you off playing the bird of dawning. Not unless Dr. Shimbliss says you're really, really sick." "I'm not," said Sam. "I'll be all right in a few hours." "What happened to you anyway?" asked Ellimere. "Dad was a bit vague, and we didn't have time to talk. Something about you going into death and getting into trouble?" "Something like that," whispered Sam. "Sooner you than me." Ellimere picked up the package and hefted it curiously, then threw it down next to Sam. "I'm glad I had no aptitude for it. Imagine if you were going to be the king and me the abhorsen. Still, I'm glad you've already started popping into death, because Mother certainly needs the help at the moment, and you'll be a lot more use doing that than mucking about making toys. Mind you, I was going to ask if you could make me 2 tennis rackets, so I suppose I shouldn't complain. I can't get anyone else to understand what I want, and I haven't played a game since I left Wyverley. You could make some, couldn't you?" "Yes," replied Sam. But he wasn't thinking about tennis. He was thinking about the book next to him, and the fact that he was the abhorsen in waiting. Everyone expected him to succeed Sabriel. He was going to have to study the Book of the Dead. He would have to walk in death again, and confront the necromancer, or even worse things, if that were possible. "Are you sure I shouldn't get Shimbliss?" Ellimere asked. "You do look very pale. I'll have someone come up with some chamomile tea, and I suppose you don't have to start your proper schedule till tomorrow. You'll be better tomorrow, won't you?" "I think so," said Sam. He was frozen immobile by the proximity of the book. Ellimere looked at him again, with a look that contained equal parts of concern, annoyance, and irritation. Then she swung around and swept out, banging the door behind her. Sam lay in bed, trying to take regular, slow breaths. He could feel the book next to him, almost as if it were a living thing, a coiled snake that was waiting to strike when he moved. He lay there for a long time, listening to the sounds of the palace that came wafting up to his tower room, even with the window closed. The regular watch cry of the guards on the wall, the sudden conversation of people in the courtyard below, as they met on their business, the clash of sword on sword from the practice field that lay beyond the inner wall. Behind it all, there was the constant crash of the sea. Belissaire was almost an island, and the palace was built upon one of its 4 hills in the northeast quarter. Sam's bedchamber was in the sea cliff tower, about halfway up. During the wildest winter storms, it was not unusual for sea spray to splash upon his window, despite the tower's distance from the shore. A servant brought chamomile tea, and they spoke briefly, though Sam had no idea what he had said. The tea cooled, and the sun rose higher, till it had passed beyond his window, and the air grew colder again. Finally, Sam moved. With shaking hands, he forced himself to pick up the package. He cut the string with the knife that lay sheathed upon his bedhead, and quickly unwrapped the oilskin, knowing that if he stopped, he'd be unable to go on. Sure enough, it was the Book of the Dead, the green leather shining as if it were coated with sweat. The silver clasps that held it closed were clouded, their brightness dimmed. They cleared as Sam watched, and then frosted again, though he had not breathed upon them. There was a note, too, a single sheet of rough-edged paper that bore only a charter mark and Sam's own name, written in Sabriel's firm, distinctive hand. Sam picked up the note, then used the oilskin wrapper, like a glove, to slip the book under his bed. He couldn't bear to look at it. Not yet. Then he touched the charter mark on the paper and Sabriel's voice sounded inside his head. She spoke quickly, and from the other noises in the background, Sam guessed she had made this message immediately before flying out in her paper wing, flying out to combat the dead. Sam, I hope you are well, and can forgive me for not being there for you now. I know from your father's last message, Hawk, that you are fit enough to be riding home, but that your encounter in death has left you sorely tired. I know what that can be like, and I'm proud that you risked entering death to save your friends. I don't know that I would be brave enough myself to go into death without my bells. Be assured that any hurt to your spirit will pass in time. It's the nature of death to take, but the nature of life to give. Your brave action has also shown me that you are ready to formally begin training as the Abhorsen in waiting. This makes me both proud and a little sad, because it means that you've grown up. The burden of an Abhorsen are many, and one of the worst is that we are doomed to miss so much of our children's lives, of your life, Sam. I've delayed teaching you, to some degree, because I wanted you to stay the dear little boy that I can so easily remember. But of course, you've not been a little boy for many years, and now you are a young man, and must be treated as such. Part of that is acknowledging your heritage, and the essential role you have in the future of our kingdom. A great part of that heritage is contained within the Book of the Dead, which you now have. You've studied a little of it with me, but now it's time for you to master its contents, as much as this is possible for anyone to do. Certainly, in these present days, I have need of your assistance, for there is a strange resurgence of trouble from both the dead and those who follow free magic, and I cannot find the source of either. We will speak more of this on my return, but for now, I want you to know that I am proud of you, Samuth. Your father is too. Welcome home, my son. With all my love, Mother. Sam let the paper fall from his grasp and fell back on the pillow. The future, so bright when that cricket ball had acred over the stands for a 6, now seemed very dark indeed. And that is the end of chapter 19. So, I hope you enjoyed that reading. I will post chapter 20 tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, I hope you do something fun tonight. I hope you eat well. I hope you stay warm. I don't know. Just take care. And I will see you tomorrow evening. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember right now. I'll think of it and say it next time. So, take care. And as always, may your magic manifest. Bye.